Life's too short to drive boring cars. So most people love SUVs, sport utility vehicles, for their versatility. Maybe it's for transporting the kids to school or that soccer game. Maybe it's to drive in the northern climates and get through that snowy weather. Whatever it is, it's the versatility, the space, the all-wheel drive, and the elevated ride height that people love. What you don't like are coming across an SUV that's going to cost you an arm and 2.5 legs to maintain, or they won't last 60,000 miles unless you spend your 401k and retirement savings to keep them on the road. But I'm going to share a list of 5 SUVs on the market that you're going to want to avoid. Let's get into it now. And speaking from experience, Bavarian money waster, of course, in my own opinion, because I've owned several so I can speak to that, would be what we have back here. It's the BMW X5 50i generation. That's the N63 powered unit, essentially 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. And while they're great to drive, they have a lot of problems. Let's talk about a few. So firstly, everybody can concede, generally speaking, the X5 is truly the benchmark for luxury motoring if you like SUVs. I mean, let's start with that. Look at the mirrors. They've got contours, LED strips, soft touch, and soft touch again, oversized. But look at these great taillights on there. And again, here we have the X5. What about the little overhang at the back? It's nice, looks sporty, but very utilitarian. Beautiful wheels, well styled. Let's take a look. I mean, going down the side, they've got this wonderful crease and then it offsets. Absolutely nice. It gives some great lines. And as well, you see something similar going on down there. It's great. You've got colored match rocker panels here and as well, colored matching around the fender wells, which absolutely adds a touch of class. Big luggage rack to haul all that junk around. And of course, you've got all that wonderful glass on top to give light for all the little shysters inside there. Great little accents. A strong and bulbous looking hood with the creases again to add a little strength to the front end. And you've got these awesome new upgraded LED headlights by BMW. How about these? Yes, and piano gloss black. The oversized grille here, which actually opens and closes depending on the heating capacity needs. What about inside? BMW's interiors are literally one of the best. They're getting better and better. You have a replica Q-stitching leather interior, high quality, wears well. The great new controller for the automatic transmission looks top shelf. All the high quality finishing makes it look absolutely beautiful. But what's the problem, specifically with the V8, which is the 50i series? First of all, air ride, which is self-leveling, allows the vehicle to stay at the same height no matter if there's a load on it or not, always keeps it at the same ride height. Great when it works, but when it fails, the rump sits on its back end. Now that's been a systemic issue with a lot of the X5s throughout the years where the air ride. So it's airbags usually get costly if you have to do a pair of rear airbags. It's going to usually cost you $2,000 to $3,000 at the dealer. Not a cheap fix. There's also air compressor, usually tucked underneath there. That's often an issue as well with the air ride, as well as relays and fuses. But the 50 series and the 4.4 has a big problem with the hot V, 2 turbos tucked in the middle. It cooks the heads, melts the valve guides and the valve guide seals, and results in massive oil consumption. Timing chains issues, they start rattling, bang, engine failure. That's right. Also draws heavy on the batteries, so there's lots of issues and talk all over the internet with battery drain and draws on these vehicles. Unfortunately, specifically even more so with the V8 version. Now, fortunately, there was an alleged class action lawsuit to cover many owners with that V8 engine to provide them with some compensation to get through ownership of that V8 engine. The X5 50i is one for the history books. Now the next one on my list is one that's normally very difficult to critique, and it's the Honda CR-V, but specifically the 2015 model year. Now I know before I get slammed for this, just listen out. It's one model year specifically, and in 2015 they went with the CVT transmission, a new engine. There's some revisements within the interior of the vehicle, but there's a whole bunch of issues that have just caused owners a whole lot of problems, including lawsuit related. CR-Vs have always been a good small to mid-size SUV for Honda. Right there. Honda's always known for good reliability, good honest transportation. We've got great projector style headlamps. They got this great bulbous hood. For sure looks somewhat sporty, even for a little SUV. Now you'll notice there's a sunroof up here, and that's the part of the nemesis and part of the problem. But there's lots of plastic to protect us from the rocks. You've got plastic around the wheel wells, plastic along the rocker panels. You've got soft touch. It's a great little vehicle. Overall, love the revisements on the back tail light assembly. Of course, this one's all-wheel drive, which is an upgrade. And there we have it, the CR-V. It even has a great little tail trim finish down there, which just adds a little pizzazz to the overall styling. You'll notice we're talking about a turbo, and be careful, some of the turbo engines are problematic in the Hondas, but let's move along. Some great chrome accents throughout. And it's got a great interior with great finishing touches, a very simplistic interior, seats that are well wearing, as well as lots of plastic means this is very versatile and will hold up to the kiddly duties. So what could possibly go wrong with a great, affordable, reliable Honda product? Well, let's get into it. Well, first of all, there was lots of problems noted where customers, they would put their vehicle in reverse and start to back out, and the vehicle would just stall. That was a common complaint. Another one was actually shattering sunroof. Customer driving along down the road, cruising along, la-di-da-di-da, and all of a sudden, poof, the sunroof just explodes. And that's also a common issue that some customers have complained about. But the big issue is the severe vibration, almost to the point where the driver's seat, you can actually feel the vibration through the driver's seat. There was a lawsuit related to that because of the drivetrain causing this whole new massive vibration to the point where customers couldn't even drive it. It was almost undrivable. Way beyond the point of being just marginally annoying, this vehicle generally didn't live up to the rest of the Honda reputation. Now the next one on my list is the Dodge Durango. Now I had one from back at the turn of the century. Mine was pretty good. The leather interior was kind of cheapish, but I had issues with the AC, that seizing up. I had issues with power windows and a few other knick-knack items. Overall, the engine was good, but it made a lot of ticking and clicking noises, even especially when it was cold, from that 4.7 liter V8 that we had in ours. These aren't catastrophic by any nature, but if you're looking for a reliable SUV, you're probably going to find something better in a Toyota. And considering these aren't all that cheap anymore, there may be other options. But let's take a quick look and we'll talk about some of the issues. I mean, first of all, it has a very clean look. So if you're looking for that muscular SUV, definitely Dodge has you covered. I mean, we've got a Hemi here, and you've got the big muscular front hood here, of course, and of course you'll notice the front end looks powerful. There's a base model, there's a Hemi, and it looks pretty beefy. But let's go back here. We have Dodge, and of course you've got the newer style headlights. The vehicle's definitely overall a longer, lower, sleeker SUV. It's more of a long distance cruiser than an all-terrain rock smasher. These are actually great family haulers, and they do a great job of hauling a lot of people around in relative comfort. Got great little accents like that, and you've got some great metallic finished wheels. How about the piano gloss black here? That's the trend these days, and it looks great. And soft touch there. You'll notice painted rocker panels. And of course, we've got color matching around the rear fender flare. This SUV definitely does feel large in stature and has somewhat dated rear finish, in my opinion. Has a bit of an oval egg-like and doesn't veer too far from the Grand Voyager and Grand Caravan. Here you can see we've got 1 and 2 exhaust tips in this Durango. Now you'll notice 4.7. And cycling down the side, it does look very, very average. Not a lot of contour to it. Although you've got one little accent crease down there. If it weren't for that, the vehicle would look very much like an egg. But looks are very subjective. Let's take a look inside. And the interior is nothing necessarily to write home about. Lots of plastic, pretty average seats, moderately bolstered, and likely going to hurt your back for the long trips. So what are the things you're going to see wrong with these? Other than, well, the 4.7 often is a little bit of a rattly engine. It makes a little ticking noise. You're definitely going to have some of that noise a lot of times with a lot of the Dodge drivetrains. That's something to get used to. Air conditioning is a point of failure. Other issues you can find, exhaust manifold bolts breaking off, and it's very costly to repair actually to get it fixed. It's not a drastic, serious issue, but it's a costly one. Plugged DGR tube can result in rough idle and stalling. Cam sensor fails on these as well, semi-frequently, which results in essentially a no start or a stalling altogether. Door lock failures, frequent updates on the infotainment system, and a locked up WCM control module, which results in over crank, and the vehicle just won't start or start very poorly. Refrigerant leaks, which I experienced personally, and mine actually seized up completely, my compressor. Front and rear differential pinion seal leaks, very, very common on these vehicles. The odd check engine light and even transfer case failures. Steering knuckle issues, as well as some whining noises coming out of the rear differential at speeds in some cases. So a lot of these problems aren't necessarily massive by numbers, but they're there and they're fairly consistent, meaning that you're likely going to spend some money along the way. The vehicle's not bulletproof, although it's not the worst either. It's not necessarily in line with a Range Rover, but you're definitely going to spend some time at the shop updating recalls, because there are numerous recalls for these vehicles, and you'll likely definitely spend some other money fixing some of the glitches that happen with these vehicles. And next we have a Chevy Equinox or a GMC Terrain like we have here at 2011 specifically. What a disastrous vehicle. And you can get them for almost 2 pennies on the dollar, but there's a reason. But let's take a quick look first. First, what we have here is what would be considered a relatively medium-sized and a somewhat attractive smaller SUV that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. But let's take a look. Now, of course, we have aftermarket wheels, so that's irrelevant. We've got aftermarket shocks in there because they all wear out very, very quickly. Here we've got some great style right here. I love those flares, looks nice. And you have an old school door lock there, but look at the bottom. You have these great little accent pieces down there as well. Looks very, very sharp. And these flares mean that this vehicle actually has a little bit of personality. Now here, nothing fancy. We have projector headlamps and we have a chrome front grille, which this one's been blinged out and absolute cheesed out with all the white spray to match. This is not factory like that. But you have these silly little lights down here wrapped in chrome and a pretty beefy looking hood for a small vehicle. This one doesn't have a glass top on it, but that's okay because the interior is pretty blasé as well with a cloth seat and fair amount of plastic. Nothing too much to write home about here either. It does have kind of an interesting rear finish as well. Looks utilitarian yet slightly sporty with that blended in corner panel here. Definitely makes it look all very, very sharp, particularly white on black. Looks great. Here, we could see it's a GMC and it has pretty basic looking rear taillights and a slightly contoured rear finish. So it definitely has a bit of style to it and a little personality. But that's where all the fun ends and the horror show begins. Here's why. Lots of problems. You have electrical issues. Big problems here, of course, we're dealing with is fuel pump related issues. Even more of a problem is slapping timing chain issues, head gaskets blow. And the big one is way premature oil consumption and lots of it. This thing eats oil, drinks oil like it's going out of style. Have you ever seen that show Popeye, where Popeye the Sailor Man finishes off the spinach? That's how this thing eats oil. Absolutely horror show. So why would you want to buy something that 6 months later you have to spend $4,000 on a partial engine rebuild, or you have to do a timing chain upgrade for another $3,000, or you have to continually pour money into this like it's going out of style? Not me. This is one definitely you want to kick to the curb. And we can't forget one of the techie vehicles. Right here we have a Tesla Model X, which is absolutely horrifying in terms of maintenance costs and reliability, but for other reasons than some of the other ones previously mentioned. Here we'll look at this. This is one of Tesla's magical creations. I mean, they do have great headlights on here and that wonderful Tesla logo. And look at these great lights down below. How about these matte black wheels? I love the looks of them. And you've got this little camera having a look at us right there. And I love the mirrors. Look at that chrome accent. And these flush mounted chrome handles, they pop out when it's time to flip the beast. Of course, we've got another camera right there. And you've got glass on the top. And of course, these doors are the Falcon doors, which are a common failure point on these vehicles. There you go. You've got these great little tail lights, unique for Tesla. And there's Tesla. Great style, great logo by Elon. There's the 100D, and that's all about capacity. There we have the little wing as well. So they definitely did break the mold when they built this car. And they're a very interesting looking vehicle, and you definitely could call them an SUV. You will get noticed driving these on the road. So if that's what you want, that's what you're gonna get. But unfortunately, they have a lot of problems, which makes them undesirable to own. Number one are the Falcon doors. As I mentioned already, those rear doors, they flip up. Those are very problematic. They're electric and often a source of a lot of heartburn. Of course, here inside, you've got the infotainment system as well as a combined control panel of the center of the dashboard. Very, very problematic, highly prone to failure. Of course, quality control, you've got huge gaps there, but yet thinner gaps over here. Quality control on panel fitment is poor. Paint quality, there's been lots of comments about paint quality as well. And even this front glass, I mean, look at that. You've got a crack here, but then what does that mean? You got to replace that whole panel that goes all the way back. That's going to be a huge expense to do that. You definitely don't want to drive a Model X without some form of insurance, and even ideally with some warranty, because they're going to be hugely expensive to repair. So at the end of the day, great to look at, great to drive for the first 2 or 3 years. After that, don't even get near one. They're going to cost you an arm and a leg. And with all of that said, I'm sure you want to hear of some of the best SUVs right there. Great video, going to help you make the right choice. Hope to see you the next time. See you real soon. Bye-bye.